A lot of people, until they actually play my guitar through one of my amps, then they go, holy shit.
Eddie Van Halen was at a guitar convention in Anaheim, checking out gear like a kid in a candy store. At one booth, a master luthier was showing off advanced tremolo setup tricks to a tight little crowd. Eddie stayed in the back, quiet, just watching. Then he asked a sharp question about spring tension ratios. The luthier froze mid-demo and stared at him like he'd just spoken another language. He said, "That's very advanced luthier knowledge. Most players don't even know that terminology. Are you a guitar tech?" Eddie shook his head, calm as ever, and said, "No, I just work on my own guitars." The luthier gave him a slow, tight smile and replied, "Well, working on your own guitars and professional luthier are very different things. What I'm demonstrating requires years of training and specialized tools. You can't learn this from YouTube." Eddie didn't flinch. He nodded and said, "I understand, but I think your spring tension might be a bit high for that bridge configuration."
He kind of nervously said, "Can I try it?" I go, "Sure." He turned it up and it was just uncontrollable.
That smile disappeared fast. The luthier straightened up and said, "I've been building and repairing guitars for 30 years. I think I know what I'm doing. But if you think you know better, why don't you come up here and show everyone your technique?" What happened in the next 15 minutes turned into pure legend at that convention, the kind of moment people still whisper about. It was a Saturday morning in April 2010 at the National Association of Music Merchants Convention. Not the giant January blowout, but the smaller Regional Guitar Tech Expo in Anaheim. This one wasn't about flashy new guitars or rock star appearances. It was all about luthier repair, fine adjustments, and the gritty side of keeping instruments alive. Real craft, real skill, no spotlight, just respect. Eddie loved spots like this. No big stage, no screaming fans, just tools, wood, metal, and serious talk. He could walk around, study new fret wire, test out bridge designs, and trade knowledge with hardcore builders who lived and breathed this stuff. That was his zone. He came dressed low-key like always. Jeans, work boots, a plain work shirt with Van Halen guitar repair stitched on it, his own inside joke. A baseball cap pulled down, no rock star shine. He looked exactly like what that shirt said. Some local guitar tech running a small shop somewhere off the highway. Nobody expected fireworks from that guy. But here's the twist. Eddie had been building his own guitars since he was a teen because he couldn't afford pros. Later, he kept doing it because he liked it. He needed his guitars to feel a certain way, react a certain way. If something didn't exist, he built it. If something didn't work, he fixed it. Simple. Over the years, he picked up electronics, woodworking, metal shaping, finishing, all hands-on, all trial by fire. He burned his fingers with soldering irons. He wrecked finishes. He cracked necks. He messed up plenty. But every mistake leveled him up. He learned by doing, not by talking. Now here he was, walking booth to booth, checking out specialty screwdrivers, measuring tools, new tremolo systems, high-end fret presses. Nothing flashy, just serious gear for serious builders. He stopped at Gerald Morrison's booth, a master luthier working on a Strat with a floating tremolo. His setup station was spotless, tools lined up perfect, movements smooth and confident. About 15 people leaned in close, hanging on every word. Gerald explained the balancing act of tremolo systems like a professor breaking down physics. He said, "The key is balancing spring tension against string tension." While adjusting the springs in the back cavity, he continued, "Most people just guess at this, but there's actually a mathematical relationship. You need to calculate the total string tension based on gauge and tuning, then match it with the appropriate spring configuration and tension." The crowd nodded, impressed. It sounded complex. It sounded official.
Closing my eyes and just playing a guitar and the feel of it and this and that. And
Eddie watched carefully, arms folded. Gerald wasn't sloppy, not at all. His technique was solid. His explanations made sense. But Eddie caught something subtle. The springs were set just a little tighter than they needed to be for that specific bridge angle and string gauge. Not a disaster, just slightly off. And that tiny detail, that's what sparked the moment nobody in that room would ever forget. Gerald kept going, confident as ever. He said, "I'm using 3 springs in a standard configuration, tension to accommodate 10 gauge strings in standard tuning. This creates a balanced system that will return to pitch even after aggressive tremolo use." He adjusted the screws with slow, precise turns like he was performing surgery. The crowd leaned in closer. From the back, Eddie spoke up again, calm but sharp. "Have you considered adjusting the spring tension ratio? With that bridge angle, you might get better response with slightly looser springs and a different anchor point." The whole group turned at once. Heads swiveled. Who was this guy throwing around terms like that? Gerald paused and looked straight at him. His eyebrows lifted. "That's very advanced Louis knowledge," he said, studying Eddie harder now. "Spring tension ratios and anchor point geometry. Most players don't even know those concepts exist. Are you a guitar tech? Do you run a shop?" Eddie lightly pointed at his shirt. "I work on guitars. Yes, just maintenance and modifications." Gerald gave him a polite smile, but it had an edge. "Well, working on your own guitars and professional luthier are very different things. What I'm demonstrating here requires years of formal training, specialized tools, and deep understanding of physics and material science. You can't learn this from YouTube videos or trial and error." Eddie noticed something immediately, he said. "I think your spring tension is a bit high for that bridge. The angle you've got suggests it's going to fight the player a bit when they use the bar." That did it. Gerald's smile tightened up. "I've been building and repairing guitars professionally for 30 years. I've set up thousands of tremolo systems. I trained under Master Louis in Germany. I think I know what I'm doing." He slowly set his tools down and crossed his arms. The air shifted. "But if you think you know better after watching a YouTube video or two, why don't you come up here and show everyone your technique?" he said. "Let's see what your amateur approach produces compared to professional luthier." There it was, a straight challenge. The crowd buzzed. This wasn't just a demo anymore. This was turning into a showdown. Eddie hesitated for a second. He didn't come to steal anyone's spotlight. He came to learn, to look around, maybe swap ideas. But he also knew what he saw. The springs were cranked tighter than they needed to be. And the way Gerald kept brushing him off, that didn't sit right.
Everything that I've destroyed, everything that I've stumbled onto, is in this guitar. It's everything I know.
"I don't want to interrupt your demonstration," Eddie said evenly. "No, please," Gerald shot back, irritation slipping through. "I want to see this. Come up here. Show everyone how someone who works on guitars sets up a tremolo system. This should be educational for you, when you see the difference between amateur tinkering and professional work." A few people in the crowd exchanged looks. Some were starting to squint at Eddie, like a light bulb was flickering on in their heads, but Gerald was locked in. He wanted to prove a point. Eddie stepped forward. The crowd parted without a word. Boots steady, no rush, no drama, just calm confidence. He reached the bench and looked down at the Strat-style guitar Gerald had been adjusting. Clean setup, quality parts, expensive custom build. "Can I make adjustments?" Eddie asked. "Be my guest," Gerald replied. "But be careful. This is an expensive custom guitar, not a beginner's practice piece." Eddie didn't react. He picked up a screwdriver from the workstation and gently flipped the guitar over to examine the spring cavity in the back. One quick glance told him everything. Gerald had set the tremolo up exactly by the book. Clean, professional, safe. but not perfect for this guitar. You've got 3 springs in standard parallel configuration, tensioned pretty tight, Eddie said, lightly checking the spring pull with his fingers. That's a very common professional setup, very stable, very predictable. But for this particular bridge design, looks like a Wilkinson-style unit, and this bodywood density feels like alder, maybe 2 pounds lighter than average, I'd suggest a different approach. People blinked. He clocked the setup just by holding it. Eddie kept talking as he worked. 2 springs instead of 3, positioned at a slight angle, about 15 degrees from parallel, to change the tension vector. He shifted the springs into a subtle V shape. This creates a V pattern instead of straight parallel lines. You could hear the tiny metal clicks as he moved fast but careful. Now I'm loosening the claw screws by about a half turn each. This reduces the total spring force while maintaining stability through geometry rather than pure tension. Gerald stood there with his arms folded tight. That's going to make the system unstable. 2 springs can't handle the string tension properly. You need at least 3 for a balanced setup with 10 gauge strings. That's basic tremolo physics. Eddie nodded slightly. With perfectly parallel springs, you'd be absolutely right, but angled springs distribute force differently. The geometry creates a natural centering force that compensates for the reduced spring count. Think of it like an archer's bow versus a straight rod. The angle adds efficiency. The room got quiet, real quiet. He made one last micro adjustment to the claw screws, barely turning them. And I'm setting this about a ½ millimeter higher on the bass side. This guitar's body has slightly different density in the bass bout. I can feel it in the weight distribution. That tiny compensation prevents the low E from pulling sharp when you hit it hard. Gerald leaned forward now, curiosity breaking through. You're doing that by feel without measuring tools? After you've set up a few hundred systems, your fingers learn, Eddie said calmly. The measurements are still there. They're just intuitive rather than numeric. Then he flipped the guitar back over and grabbed the tremolo arm. He pressed down gently. The bridge floated smooth, no jerk, no grind. He let it return. Perfect pitch, dead on. He bent the G string up a whole step while holding a full E chord. The other strings stayed locked in tune like they were glued there. Then he went harder. Dive bombs all the way down until the strings were slack. Flutter tricks, quick scoops, the kind of heavy bar work that would wreck a weak setup in seconds. Every single time, the bridge snapped right back to pitch like it had radar, and the crowd leaned in, eyes wide. That motion looked unreal, silky smooth, almost too clean. Feel the difference, Eddie said, handing the guitar back to Gerald. Play something that uses the bar. Gerald took it slowly, almost cautious now. He played a simple phrase and added some tremolo work. The response, it's so much lighter. I barely have to touch the bar, Gerald said, almost shocked. The reduced spring tension makes the bar more responsive, Eddie explained to the crowd. Less force required from the player, which means more expressive control. You can do subtle VR, not just big dives. And notice the return to pitch is actually faster and cleaner than the 3-spring setup, even though physics says it shouldn't be. That line made a few heads snap up. Why is it faster? Someone in the crowd asked. Less spring mass to settle, Eddie replied. 3 springs have more inertia. They snap back hard and take a moment to stabilize. 2 springs with geometric compensation return more smoothly. It's counterintuitive, but it works. He took the guitar back and said, "Watch." He moved the bar just a little. Tiny, controlled motion. A soft shimmer rolled through the chords. Smooth, controlled, musical. With Gerald's 3-spring setup, this would be almost impossible. Too much tension. You'd have to fight the springs. But with 2 angled springs, it's effortless. People leaned in closer. You could feel the energy shift in the room. Gerald stared at the back cavity, studying the V pattern. The angle, I never would have thought to angle them. I was taught parallel configuration is correct. Parallel is correct for a textbook setup, Eddie said. But guitars aren't textbooks. Every guitar wants something slightly different. This one wanted less tension and more geometry. He handed the guitar to someone in the crowd. "Try it." The guy played a few chords, hit the tremolo, bent some notes. His eyebrows shot up. "This feels amazing. Way more responsive than my guitar." Gerald took it back, turning it over again, really looking now. The setup wasn't traditional. It wasn't what the manuals said, but it worked. Not just worked. It felt better than his careful, formula-driven approach. "How did you know to angle the springs like that?" Gerald asked. And this time there was no edge in his voice. Just real curiosity. "Experience," Eddie said. "I've set up probably a few hundred tremolo systems over the years. You learn what works for different configurations." "A few hundred," Gerald repeated slowly. That's a lot for someone who just does their own maintenance." A voice from the back cut in. "That's because he's Eddie Van Halen. He's been modifying his own guitars since the 70s. The room went dead quiet. Gerald's face changed fast. Confusion, shock, realization. You're Eddie Van Halen?" "I am," Eddie confirmed calmly. Gerald blinked. "And I just told you that you learned guitar tech from YouTube. I said you're doing amateur tinkering compared to professional work. I challenged Eddie Van Halen's guitar modification knowledge." He slowly sat down on his work stool like his legs gave out. "Your shirt says Van Halen Guitar Repair. I thought it was just a fan thing." "It's a joke shirt I had made," Eddie admitted with a small grin, "because I do repair guitars, mine mostly, but I've been doing it for about 40 years. Now phones were out, photos, video, people whispering. This was turning into one of those moments you tell your friends about forever." Gerald looked at his original tremolo setup, then at Eddie's adjustments. He shook his head slowly. "Your approach is better. Less tension, better response, same stability. I was so focused on the mathematical formula that I wasn't listening to what the actual guitar wanted." "The math is important," Eddie said kindly. "You need to understand the principles. But then you have to adapt to the specific instrument. Every piece of wood is different. Every bridge has its own personality. You can't just apply a formula." There was no ego in his voice, no victory lap, just craft talking to craft. Instead of walking away, Eddie stayed. For the next hour, he basically co-taught the booth with Gerald. He shared extra techniques, showed how he modified his own guitars, explained unconventional tricks that broke the rules but delivered results. He talked about diagnosing issues by feel, how the neck vibrates, how the body balances, how the springs respond under real playing pressure. The crowd didn't stay small for long. It grew to around 50 people, maybe more. Word spread fast across the floor that Eddie Van Halen was giving an unplanned master class on guitar tech. Other luthiers and repair pros left their booths and came over just to watch. This wasn't hype. This was real deal knowledge being dropped in real time. When it finally wrapped up, Gerald stepped forward and held out his hand. "Mr. Van Halen, I apologize for being dismissive. I assumed because you didn't look like a professional luthier, you weren't one." Eddie shook his hand firmly. "You are a professional luthier," he corrected gently. "I'm a professional guitar player who works on instruments, different skill sets. You know formal training, proper techniques, the math. I know what a player needs, what feels right, what works on stage. We should learn from each other." That hit different. No ego, just truth. "Why do you still work on your own guitars?" Gerald asked. "You could hire any luthier in the world." "Because I like it," Eddie said with a small shrug. "I like understanding my instruments. I like being able to make adjustments on the fly. And honestly, the work is meditative. It keeps me connected to the guitars as objects, not just tools. That answer stuck with people. After Eddie left, Gerald didn't touch that tremolo setup. He kept it exactly the way Eddie had adjusted it, angled springs and all. It became a quiet reminder sitting right there on his bench. The story moved through the Luther community almost instantly. Tech forums buzzed, phone calls were made. People who weren't even there heard about it within days. The moment had turned into legend. When Eddie passed away in 2020, Gerald shared a public tribute. He posted photos from that day at the convention and wrote, "In 2010, I told Eddie Van Halen that working on your own guitars and professional Luther are different things. He responded by demonstrating guitar tech knowledge that exceeded my 30 years of training. More importantly, he taught me that the best approach combines formal knowledge with practical experience, that every guitar is unique, and that you should listen to the instrument, not just the math. He turned my condescension into a master class." That day in Anaheim didn't just become a cool convention story. It turned into one of those moments people replay in their heads for years. A quiet guy in work boots walks up, gets underestimated, and then calmly rewrites the whole conversation with pure skill. No shouting, no ego, just results. What makes it powerful isn't that Eddie proved someone wrong. It's how he did it. He didn't embarrass Gerald. He didn't flex his fame. He explained every move step by step. He showed the thinking behind it. He respected the craft. That's boss-level confidence right there. And let's be real, that spring angle trick, that wasn't luck. That came from decades of getting his hands dirty, burning fingers on soldering irons, testing ideas that failed, listening to how wood vibrates, feeling how tension pushes back. That's hands-on mastery you can't fake. The wild part is Gerald wasn't some rookie. 30 years of experience, formal European training, deep knowledge of physics and materials. He knew his stuff. But in that moment, he learned something bigger. Formulas matter, but instruments aren't robots. Every guitar has its own vibe, its own personality. And sometimes you have to feel your way to the answer, not just calculate it. That's why this story hits so hard. It's not about who was smarter. It's about staying open, staying humble, being willing to learn, even when you think you've seen it all. The second you think you know everything, that's when you stop growing. Eddie didn't just adjust a tremolo system that day. He shifted the whole energy in that room. What started as tension turned into collaboration. What started as doubt turned into respect. That's how real legends move. And think about this. He could have hired any top luthier on the planet. He could have stayed hands-off. But he chose to stay connected to the nuts, bolts, springs, and wood. He loved the process. He loved understanding his gear from the inside out. That's passion you can't manufacture. Moments like this remind us why mastery stands out. It's quiet. It's steady. It doesn't need to announce itself. When it shows up, everybody feels it. If this story fired you up, drop a comment below and tell me what you think. Have you ever been underestimated and then proved yourself through pure skill? I want to hear that story. And if you're into real music history, behind-the-scenes moments, and stories that show how legends really think, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We break down moments just like this, the kind you won't hear in the mainstream headlines. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive. Trust me, the next story is just as wild. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.